Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on applying for a study permit. So my name's Karn. I'm one of the lawyers here at BorderPass. Just to give you guys a brief background on myself, like I said, I'm one of the lawyers here at BorderPass. I've been working here for about over a year and a half now. And during my time here, I have, many different hats of what I do, but I work on a lot of study permits. I work on study permit extensions, PGWPs, visitor visas, kind of everything that we do. I have some part in it. In addition to that, I also work on a lot, or if not all, judicial reviews. So I kind of do a lot here at BorderPass, and through doing all these applications and doing the judicial reviews, I've had quite a bit of experience reviewing applications and then reviewing refusals. So I have a lot of background knowledge on what we're going to talk about during today's webinar. Just a brief agenda of what we're going to be going over. First, I'm going to be going over BorderPass and what we are for anybody who's new out there and hasn't used BorderPass. So you might want to know. Then I'm going to be going over some important documents during your study permit application, some frequently asked questions that we have been getting. Um, then I'm going to be going over consultations and future webinars that we are going to have, our referral service, and then lastly, we're going to be getting into a Q&A section. Am I? Oh, sorry. I thought I was muted for a second. Um, and then we're going to be getting into our Q&A section. So I know a lot of you that attend these webinars, you guys do have questions, so feel free to pop them into the chat at any time. I will be getting to them at the end. What I will ask is if you are asking questions and they have to do with either document uploads or they're very specific questions for yourself, please email into us at hello@borderpass.ai. I'm going to pop that into the chat real quick. So you can send us an email there. So if you are having trouble with document uploads or if it's a very specific question for you, you can send us an email there and somebody will have be able to help you out. The reason I'm saying for the very specific, situation for yourself, it's kind of hard in these Q&A sections to get all of the information I would need in order to answer some of your questions. Sometimes I need to know way more stuff, and that might not be things you are comfortable sharing in a chat session with a bunch of people you don't know. And also that could take a lot of time with back and forth in order for me to do that. Also, I'm going to be getting into this a little later, is booking a consultation with a lawyer where you're able to sit down with one of us and, chat about your situation and get some legal advice just then and there. Okay. Give me 1 second. So, some of you in this webinar might be new to BorderPass. You might not have used BorderPass before. It might have been recommended to you by, one of your friends or your school or an agent that you're working with. So you might be wondering, what is BorderPass? Essentially, BorderPass is a digital platform which offers clear and affordable immigration guidance and legal support for people who are looking to study, work, or visit Canada. And it's backed by experienced immigration lawyers like myself, and we will help users throughout your immigration journey, from visa applications to settlement services. Now, you might be wondering, well, why should I use BorderPass? It was recommended to me, but like I don't really see, where the value is, or I want to know what the value in using BorderPass is. So, first, you're going to get expert legal guidance without the high cost of legal fees. So, generally, legal fees can range anywhere from $250 to $1,000 an hour. With BorderPass, you're not going to be paying that. So, like I said before, BorderPass is backed by immigration lawyers, and we're going to review your applications to catch errors or weak areas. And you're going to get all of this without the cost of hiring a private lawyer. So you're going to get clarity on requirements, forms, and then documents with step-by-step instructions to complete your applications. Two, we're going to make sure that your application's done right the first time. So a big reason for refusals is because of incomplete or poorly prepared applications. So we're going to help you avoid these mistakes that can delay or jeopardize your plans. Three, you're going to get secure document management. If you've used BorderPass already, or if you've started using it, you're going to see that there's something called the document vault. That's where you can upload, organize, and store all of your immigration documents. And it's all in one secure place. And it'll stop you from searching through emails or cloud drives during tight deadlines. Next, once you do get to Canada, we're going to offer you settlement support. So it doesn't just stop at the visa. You can also get help with housing, banking, phone and internet setup, and building your credit in Canada. And we're going to make landing and settling much smoother. Next, pathways to PR. So we're going to help you track your progress towards PR eligibility over time. We're going to keep your long-term immigration goals in view while you're studying. And lastly, this might be one of the reasons you're attending this webinar, but we're trusted by schools. So a lot of Canadian schools now have directly partnered with BorderPass, meaning they trust our platform to support you, the international student. Okay, let's pop open our website. Sorry, just give me 1 second, guys. Great. Let me just share my screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Real quick, are you guys able to see my screen? I need to also find. Okay, yes, perfect. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're in the document vault right now. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is where you're going to come and upload all of your things. So for your study permit application, there's a few key documents I quickly want to go over. First is your, no, it's not in here, back here. Sorry guys, I think this might have changed recently. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. Okay, letter of acceptance. So this is probably going to be the first document you get when you're considering coming to study in Canada. You apply to school, you're going to get a letter of acceptance. Just a common mistake that is made with the letter of acceptance is people confuse like an offer of admission, letter of offer, whatever your school might call it, with an official letter of acceptance. These are two different documents. Your offer of admission, letter of offer, whatever it's called, it usually has conditions tied to it. One of those conditions could be paying a tuition deposit. It could be sending in your final grade, something like that. Once those conditions are, you know, satisfied, then your school will send you an official letter of acceptance. And it's going to look something like this. If you go to TRU, it might be a cover page, but it's going to have it's going to be in this format. I know there's some schools that where it doesn't look like this, like the University of Alberta or Windsor, but most likely it's going to look something like this, and it's going to detail three things that IRCC is looking for: personal information, institutional information, and program information. And the reason IRCC looks for this is because one, they want to know who you are. Two, they want to know what school you're going to. And three, they want to know information about your program. So they want to know what program you're taking, what level of study it is, how much your tuition is, when the start date is, when your expected graduation date is, whether or not you have a co-op. All of that's going to be listed in the letter of acceptance. So generally, it's going to look something like this. If you are confused about whether you have whether the document you have is your official letter of acceptance, it's really easy. Just shoot us an email, hello@borderpass.ai, send us your document, say, hey, I'm confused. Is this my letter of acceptance? And we'll quickly let you know. So that's a very important thing. If you do upload your letter of offer, your offer of admission, whatever it might be called, what's going to end up happening is your application is going to get delayed. because somebody like me might review it and say, hey, this isn't your letter of acceptance. We send you a request. That just kind of delays your application being submitted to IRCC. So this is very important. Second, provincial attestation letter. I believe that's down here. Great. Okay, your PAL. So if you are applying to post-secondary school in Canada, there is a very high likelihood that you are going to need a PAL. There are some exceptions for people who don't need a PAL, but if you're applying to post-secondary school, more likely than not, you are going to need a PAL. So this is something that's going to be issued to you by your school, and it's through the government, the provincial government, whichever province your school is in. So this one says Alberta because this student's probably going to SAIT or University of Calgary or something like that. This needs to be included with your application. And one very important thing with a PAL is if you've applied for a study permit in the past and you've used a PAL and you've been refused, that PAL is no longer valid. So even though this one says it expires at the end of the year, December 31st of 2025, since it's been used before, it's no longer valid. So you're going to have to get a new PAL from your school. The reason this is so important is it makes it so much more important for you to submit a complete application when you do, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you submit, an application that's not fully complete. You're trying to hit a deadline, get into time for the semester, and you could make your application better, but you just don't have time. So you submit your application, you get refused, and now you have to go back to your school and ask for a new PAL. And they could be in a situation where they say, well, we don't have any more. We've run out for the year. Or two, you've been refused. We don't want to give you another one. So this rule that's in place for PALs is very important because it makes it so much more important that the application you submit to IRCC is the most complete and strongest application that you're able to submit. Okay. Now, like I said to you guys earlier, I do a lot of judicial reviews. So I'm going to tell you very high level, basic terms what a judicial review is. If you submit any sort of application, let's say for immigration to IRCC, and they make a decision and you don't agree with that decision, you think the decision was unreasonable, that's the word to use here, you're able to challenge that decision by going to court and saying, hey, the decision that this person made was unreasonable. If a judge agrees with you, they will say, you know what, this decision was unreasonable. I'm going to set that decision aside, and this application is going to be reviewed by a different officer. That's kind of very basic terms what judicial review is. So I do a lot of those. When I'm doing judicial reviews, I get to see a lot of officers' refusal reasons. So if you've been refused in the past, you probably know that you get a refusal letter, and now what they've started doing is providing officer decision notes. So because I've done so many judicial reviews, I've reviewed, I don't even know how many I could say, too many officers' decision notes. So because of that, I see all of the refusal reasons that, people are getting, and I get a good sense of what the big reasons are. Through my review of all those, the number one reason for refusals when it comes to study permit applications is generally due to finances. So this is very important. I'm going to go over everything that is included with finances here. But I'm going to go really into detail on certain things that are required. So before I get into all that, you might be wondering, well, what's the financial requirement for me to get a study permit? So essentially it's this right here on this side of the screen, if you're able to see my cursor circling it. It's your first year's tuition. It's living expenses of $22,895. That's for one applicant. And then travel expenses, which is $1,500. So if your program's first year tuition is $12,000, your minimum financial requirement is going to be $36,395 because that's 12,000 plus 22,895 plus 1,500. That's the minimum amount of money you're going to have to show in order to apply for a study permit. If you show anything less than that, there is a 100% chance that your application is going to be refused. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, what can I do to show that I meet that minimum requirement? So there's a bunch of different things you can show. You can show tuition receipts, bank statements, a GIC certificate, investment account statement, my bank statement ticket, certificate of deposit, education loan, official academic scholarship, proof of pre-K accommodations, and then study allowances. So I'm not going to get into all of these documents, but these are what you're able to show. I'm going to go over what common mistakes people generally make when they are uploading these documents. First and foremost, tuition receipts. So if you prepaid your tuition, whether it's, you paid a tuition deposit, whether you paid your first semester, whether you paid your first year, or whether you've just paid your entire tuition upfront, you're going to receive a receipt for that. And that's going to come directly from your school. That's the receipt you upload to your account. If you upload anything else, whether it's, like proof of a bank transfer or something like that, that doesn't always work because there might be some information missing, such as, who the tuition is being paid for, say your parent or somebody else paid for this tuition, who the money is going to, how much exactly is paid in Canadian dollars. So that kind of stuff might be missing. So generally we don't ask for, proof of your bank transfer. What we want to see is the official receipt that you receive from your school. So please do that. Getting into the other documents, bank statements. Couple things I want to go over when it comes to bank statements. One of the frequently asked questions we've actually gotten lately is people asking about lump sums. They're saying, well, why am I being asked for a lump sum explanation? Why am I being asked for documentation? So, when it comes to the presence of lump sum deposits in your bank account statements, if IRCC or the officer thinks there's, lump sums coming into your bank account, that is a huge red flag for them, and that gives them automatic grounds to refuse your application. Unless there's two things. And this comes from tons and tons of case law. Like these are judges that have made this decision. And it's an IRCC officer cannot refuse your application because of the presence of lump sum deposits if two things are present. One is an explanation for the lump sum deposit, and two is documentary evidence. So, for example, say you have a deposit in your bank account of about $15,000. What you can do, or what's going to happen, is we're going to pick that up when you upload your bank statements to our system. And we're going to say, hey, there's this $15,000 deposit. Give us an explanation. Your explanation can be, I sold my car in order to finance my studies in school. That's great. Now you got an explanation. Two, documentary evidence. When you sold your car, you're going to get some sort of evidence that you sold your car, whether it's like a deed of sale or a transfer of property, something like that. You upload that as your documentary evidence. Once you upload that, you basically satisfy the requirement that judges in Canada have, set out in order for an officer not to refuse your application. So that is very important. Okay, sorry, I just got a random pop-up on my screen. Two, for your bank statements, the presence of corporate banking statements. So if you or your financial supporter, and we're going to get into financial supporters in a little bit, have a company and that company has bank accounts, do not upload those as your proof of bank statements. And I'll tell you why. IRCC, and this has happened several times, if they see corporate account statements, so if it has your business name in there, let's say, um, you know, let's say you don't own Starbucks and you upload a bank account that says Starbucks incorporated. If IRCC sees that, there's a 100% chance that your application will be refused. And what they're going to say is presence of corporate statements. I don't know who owns this, refused. Now, if you do have a corporate bank account, like your company bank account, what I recommend is whatever money is going to be used for your education from that corporate bank account, take that money and deposit it into a personal bank account, whether that's your personal bank account, whether that's your financial supported personal bank account, whoever's, deposit that money in there. Obviously, when that money goes in, there's going to be a lump sum deposit. It's super simple to explain. You say, this is money I took out of my company to pay for my education. And your evidence, you can use those corporate bank account statements as your evidence of that sent in. So very important things when it comes to corporate bank account statements. They can't be used as personal source of or your primary source of funds, but they can be used as evidence of where that money came from. Getting into where that money came from. A very big refusal reason we've been seeing in 2025 is officers refusing applications because they can't figure out the source or provenance of funds. This means that they don't know where the money that you have in your bank account came from. And because of that, they're going to refuse your application. This is very important. So this is kind of going to get into the secondary documents that we have down here, where it says upload documents on source of funds. So say you have a bank account that has $100,000 in it, Canadian, and it just starts off at 100,000 in the first month statements that you've uploaded, and then you go to the fourth month and it's still there. Sure, you've had that money sitting there for a long time, but now IRCC officers are saying, I don't know where that money came from. So because of that, I'm going to refuse the application. These are the documents right here that you're able to upload to show how you made the money that you have made. So it can be proper property ownership documentation, say you've got lease agreements or something like that. Land certificates, same thing. Tax documents to show how much money you made in previous years. Employment letters to show how much money you're making right now. Pay slips to kind of back that up. Business documents if you own a business. In any other sort of income verification, bank account confirmation, precious metals if you have those, bank certificates, or any other financial documents. You upload that stuff here to show, you know, this is how I'm making my money. And I know it says recommended on the right side of the screen there. However, I'm telling you right now that is required by IRCC. Otherwise, there's a very high likelihood that they will refuse your application. Take my word for it. I tell you, I look through hundreds of refusal reasons, every month. And that is a very big reason for refusals in 2025 and kind of moving forward now. So very important that you do strengthen your application by showing where you made the money that you have made. Just kind of getting back into these documents real quick. Um, GICs, if you don't know what a GIC is, a GIC is probably the strongest way to show that you meet the minimum financial requirement. It's a guaranteed investment certificate, so it's an investment you can purchase here in Canada, and then once you do arrive, that money gets dispersed to you. The reason it's such a strong way to show that you have the money that's required for school is you're essentially putting money in Canada in your name, and it's going to be dispersed to you when you get here to start your studies. Outside of that, education loan, when it comes to education loans, we need the entire loan document. So we need to see all the terms, if there's any co-signers, that stuff like that. It can't just be that one pager that says, hey, this person's been approved for a loan for $20,000. That doesn't tell us much. If we just see that, we're going to make a request for the entire loan document. So please ensure to do that. Also, this is something new that we have added lately because of some refusals that we've seen in the past. If your education loan has to be repaid while you are in school, we need an explanation of how that's going to be paid. So say you got an education loan to start studying in January, but your first payment is also in January or it's in February, and it requires payments to be paid back, you need to explain how those payments are going to be made. Because IRCC officers have been saying this loan is required to be paid back, while this person's still in school. I don't know how they're going to be paying for it. This application is refused. So if your family's going to be helping you out by making those payments while you're in school, you need to say that, or If you're going to be making those payments by working, you need to say that. But there needs to be some sort of communication to the IRCC officer, because if it isn't, they're left guessing. And if they have to guess, they're just going to refuse your application. So that's very important. Um, Proof of prepaid accommodations. So a question we have been getting quite a bit, or I've had consultations with people that have asked me this question, is they're saying, I'm coming to Canada and I'm going to be staying with family, and they're not going to be paying, or they're not going to be getting me to pay for anything. Therefore, I don't have to pay this $22,895. Unfortunately, that's not how it works in IRCC's eyes. So even though you are going to be staying with family and you're not going to be paying for anything, you are still required to show that $22,895. So you can provide a letter that says, hey, I'm going to be staying with family, and that's great. But IRCC isn't going to use that towards their calculation of what, you need to show for living expenses. So that is very important. I know that's unfortunate, but that's just kind of IRCC's stance on it. So if you are staying with family, you do still need to show that $22,895. So very important to know that. Outside of that, investment account statements, quickly, I just want to go over. If you have a retirement savings account and you are trying to upload that under your investment account statement, um, it's a very big red flag for IRCC. We've seen several refusals when people upload that, or like they're adamant that they should be able to use it, or that there's like early withdrawal. Unfortunately, IRCC doesn't consider retirement savings plans as readily available funds because, it's in the name, it's a retirement savings plan. So you're supposed to get that money when you retire. People have said, well, I can pull that money out early. If you can pull that money out early, pull it out early, put it into a personal bank account and provide those statements to us. When that happens, obviously there's going to be a lump sum, but that's very easy. I pulled money out of my out of my retirement savings plan. The evidence is a retirement savings plan, and then you can provide it that way. But if you just provide the retirement savings plan, there's a very high likelihood that your application will be refused. Okay, last thing I want to go over when it comes to finances is financial supporters. So, most people, when they are going to school, they most likely have a financial supporter. I know I did. My parents supported me while I was in school. You might too. If you have a financial supporter and you're going to be uploading their financial documents, you do need to provide some documents. So, first is their ID. We need to know who they are. Two is a financial support letter in which they're detailing, um, this is who I am. I'm going to be financially supporting this person. This is my relationship to this person. And I'm going to be paying for, XYZ while they're in school. Third, very important, because we've already covered it in, source and provenance of funds, is you need some sort of proof of their income. So how are they making their money that they're making? So we kind of already went over it, all the stuff over here, employment letters, tax documents, pay slips, business documents, some sort of proof of how they are making the money they're making. And lastly, and most importantly, is proof of relationship. So when it comes to your parents, this is pretty easy. Birth certificate. And generally for parents, you don't really need to explain why is this person supporting, you for school. It's, your parents. That's just a very common thing that happens around the world. Once you kind of step away from that, and the further and further you get away from your parents, you're going to have to do a little bit more work of explaining why this person is financially supporting you while you're in school. Because a big reason for refusals when it comes to financial supporters is officers say, well, I don't believe this person's going to be financially supporting them when they're in school. Because what's the reason to? Like, why is this person's uncle supporting them? Or, why is this person's friend supporting them? So when it comes to proof of relationship, and it's not, your immediate family, like you're not your mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever, and you're kind of getting further and further, what I strongly suggest is providing a separate letter, so separate from the financial support letter, which details one, your relationship to this person, and two, why they're going to be supporting you. So, just for example, a really good one I saw. This ended up being a judicial review, and we got a judge to make a decision on this. Um, in the financial support letter itself, so it's just one document. You can either put in one document or separate documents. But this person's cousin was supporting them, and they wrote that the reason they were supporting them was when they were children, this cousin had fallen in a pit, and this person, saved their life. So since that day, they felt a need to, repay them for this. And now that they're going to go study for school in Canada, that's how they were going to be repaying them. And a judge said that was good enough to prove the relationship. So it has to be something like that. In addition to, why they're supporting you, you do need to show a familial link. So say your uncle's supporting you and this is your mom's brother, you could provide your uncle's birth certificate, your mom's birth certificate, and your birth certificate, which shows that you are in fact related to your uncle. So that is very important when it comes to financial supporters. Um, Outside of that, I think I've covered everything I wanted to in here. I've kind of gone through the things I usually do a little bit quicker because I know we get a ton of questions. I know we already got 41 chats here, so I do want to get to the Q&A a little sooner just so I can get through everybody's questions. A couple things I did want to go over before we get into the Q&A. Consultations. So, if I don't get to one of your questions today, or if you want to sit down and, have a consultation with a lawyer, you're able to book one. So, one change that we have had, in the last few weeks, before our consultations used to be 30 minutes, we've actually shortened that to 15 minutes. Couple reasons for that. So many people were booking consultations that I was actually booking consultations a month and a half in advance. And, I only have so many hours throughout the day, and, same with the other lawyers. So we couldn't actually, open up more hours to do consultations. So we shortened the length of consultations to 15 minutes just so we were able to squeeze in more people every week. That's one reason. Two, while we're doing these consultations, they don't normally take 30 minutes. So I know you might think, this is going to take forever, but a lot of our consultations are being done, in that 10 to 15-minute range. If you do have more questions, obviously we are able to book a further consultation. So when it comes to consultations, these are not included with our partnerships with the schools. However, these are like heavily discounted fees. People have asked, like how much is it? It is really going to depend on the partnership that we have with your school. But I can tell you it's these are very discounted consultations. So you get to speak with one of our lawyers for a pretty discounted price. So you can just come here, book a consultation. You'll be able to speak with one of our lawyers here. I have asked for that picture to be changed, but it hasn't changed yet. So I need to talk to somebody about that. But yeah, you can book a consultation here. Two, second thing I wanted to go over, rewards. So, if you have any friends, family, anybody that you know that is thinking about applying for their study permit, you're able to refer your friends and family to BorderPass. And, if they sign up, both of you guys earn some cash. I know I love earning cash, so I'm sure you guys do too. So if you want to earn some, send this out to all your friends and family. If you want to become a BorderPass advocate at your school, you can also do that here. I don't know too many details about that myself, but you can click in, see all the details, and you can become an advocate for BorderPass in your home country and earn cash for each new sign up. So that's available to you as well. Anything else I wanted to go over here? I don't think so. Okay. I think we should be able to get into the Q&A section. Just give me 1 second. Oh, okay. Sorry. Before we do get into Q&As, limitations on file sizes. I know you guys have been emailing in asking us about this, saying, like I'm hitting the limitation for file size. I'm at my 4 MB. What's going on? The reason for these size limitations when it comes to your files that you're uploading onto BorderPass, it isn't something that we've set out. So when we go and upload your documents to IRCC, they have a limit of 4 MB for each document. So your letter of acceptance, that's a separate document. All these documents are separate. All your finances, it needs to be under 4 MB. If it's over, it's not going to upload. So if you're giving us something for 20 MB, we're not going to be able to upload it and it's going to delay your application. So very important when you are uploading your documents, the totality of your documents that come under whatever section that is needs to be under 4 MB. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to upload it to IRCC and submit your application. So it's very important. And please stop getting mad at us because we're not the ones that set this limitation. That's IRCC. So that's very important. Um, Also, last thing, if you're already in Canada and you're thinking about applying for your family members, um, as of right now, what you're going to have to do is just email into us, hello@borderpass.ai. Let us know. Like if you're already here with a study permit or work permit, whatever it might be, and now you want to bring over, your spouse or your children or something like that, email into us and we'll be able to help you out with that. Because I know there has been a little bit of confusion. I know we just popped into a chat again. Hello, HELLO @borderpass.ai, and we can help you out there. Okay. I know there's lots of questions in here, so let's get to these. I just applied for a study permit extension. How long does it take to hear from IRCC? And also the confirmation letter that is in processing. Can I show that to my employer? Okay, so right now for study permit extensions, let's go look at what the current processing time is, and I'll tell you exactly how long it's going to take. You know what? We can all do this together. So, in case you're wondering how long, whatever application you're applying for takes, I'm going to show you. So, let's just go to Google. So, just go to Google and type in IRCC processing times. You go to check current IRCC processing time. You select your application that you're applying for. So, here it's going to be temporary residence. This is a study permit extension. And the processing time right now is 171 days. So it's about 6 months. So that's how long it's going to take to hear back from IRCC on your study permit extension. If, say, you're applying for a study permit from outside Canada, and let's say you're applying from Australia, it's 11 weeks. So this is how you check whatever the current processing time is for whatever application you're making. In terms of showing the confirmation letter to your employer, is I'm assuming that's so you can keep working. Yep, you can show that you've submitted your, study permit application, or we've submitted it for you, and then that should keep you to allow you to keep working while you're on maintained status. Hi, can you give us scholarship options for work study visas? Unfortunately, I can't just because it's going to depend on what school you're going to. So the best way to figure out, scholarship options while you're studying is go to your school. They probably have all that stuff listed online, or you can reach out to somebody in the international department at your school, and they should be able to help you out. How early can one arrive in Canada after visa refusal? So generally what we recommend is once you've been approved for your study permit, you've gotten your letter of introduction, your passport request and all that stuff, the earliest we would say for you to come to Canada is about a month. Anything earlier than that, they might, send you back and say come back after a month, but a month is usually generally pretty good. How do I document a cash gift from a sister for the purposes of proof of funds? My PAL expires on December 31st, 2025. Does it mean my permit must be approved before the date of expiration, or I must use it? Okay, so a couple questions here. So first, how do you document a cash gift from a sister for the purposes of proof of funds? So what you can do is you can deposit that cash into your bank account, one. You provide that bank account. When you do, we're going to pick up that lump sum. If we don't pick up that lump sum, but you think it is a lump sum, provide an explanation for it. You can say, this is a cash gift that my sister gave me. And then your documentary evidence can be a letter from your sister. Usually, I believe there's like a deed, a gift deed or something like that. So get her to fill that out, and that can be your documentary evidence for that. With respect to the PALs expiring on December 31st, what that means is your application to IRCC has to be submitted before your PAL expires. So um, it just has to be submitted, before December 31st, I think 11:59 p.m. So that's what that means. It doesn't have to be approved or anything like that, or you don't have to be inside Canada before your PAL expires. It's just about being submitted to IRCC. Lastly, my sponsor is not a family member, but a philanthropist. When my sponsor, how does it work? So, like I said, I know your question probably came in before I explained it. One, we're going to need a financial support letter, like detailing that this person is going to be financially supporting you. Two is going to be, proof of relationship, or, a letter explaining why they're supporting you with some sort of evidence. So those are the two things. Also, we do need their ID and proof of their income. My husband has a valid visitor visa valid till 2023. This was not disclosed in my study permit application. Doesn't matter. No, that doesn't matter because what's concerned in your study permit application is all of the applications that you've made to IRCC or to Canada. Um, it's a good thing you asked that question though, because what is very important is if you have applied to Canada in the past, or if you've had a refusal to Canada or any other country in the world, this needs to be disclosed to IRCC. The reason for this being is if you don't, IRCC could think you're misrepresenting facts to them to make yourself, your application seem better. And they're actually able to ban you from Canada for up to 5 years. And this has happened before. So, as a failsafe, we'll ask you during our assessments, hey, tell us about every single application you've made to another country before and tell us if it was approved or refused. And then again, when you're filling out your form, you're going to need to fill in some information about that. So, it's very important because the last thing we want is, you being banned from Canada for up to 5 years. So in our assessment, and then when you're filling out the forms, make sure to enter in that information that you have been refused to another country before, or if you've applied to Canada before. Somebody asked what a co-op is. So, a co-op is if part of your studies you're required to work. So like if you're doing like an internship or something with with a company that either your school funds for you or you fund for you, and that is used as a part of like your program, that's a co-op. So that's what that is. When you have to do a co-op, you have to apply for a co-op work permit. That's just an extra step, part of your study permit application. So I hope I explained that well. If I didn't, ask me some follow-up questions. For someone who is applying for a study permit extension, same DLI, same program, do I need to submit my initial LOA or just an enrollment letter will suffice? Submit everything. So we're going to ask you when you're applying for your study permit extension, your current program and then your new program. So if you've just like finished a program or you're just finishing a program, that'll be your current program. You'll provide us with your letter of completion and then your new program. And then we're going to submit all of that to IRCC. Submit everything to us just because we're going to need to see it. It's always better to give us more documents than less documents. If you're confused, send us an email, ask us exactly what's needed. But if you are applying for a study permit extension, we are going to need both LOAs and either a letter of enrollment or a letter of completion for your previous program. I'm enrolled in a one-year program and would like to continue to work abroad in Canada before eventually getting a PR. Do I need both a study permit and study visa? What's the difference? Does a TRV cover it automatically? Okay. Um, so your study permit and study visa is like the same thing. It's just a study permit. Um, this is one of those situations where I need some more information from you. So, if this was your question, kind of rephrase it so I can help you out. But essentially, after you're done your studies, you're able to apply for a PGWP. That's what allows you to work full time in Canada. That's a different application. And I don't think there's enough time for me to get into all of whatever that is. So if you have some more questions about this, please send us an email and somebody will be able to clarify with you. I had free accommodation from St. Clair for my first semester. Okay, so if you have free accommodation from St. Clair, most likely what's going to happen is there's going to be some sort of value accredited to that. So reach out to your school, to St. Clair, and ask them if they're able to provide you with if there's a receipt or something like that, and then you can provide that as proof of prepaid accommodations that you're able to show. When it comes to living with family and or friends or somebody like that, that you can't really quantify how much money you're saving. If it's accommodation from your school, that's a little bit different if you're able to get a receipt for it. Is it mandatory to include the cost of room and board on the study permit application form? No, it's not. The only thing that's required in that form is filling in your tuition, and that's going to be your first year's tuition, not the total tuition. Same question about the form and employment history. If there are gaps between jobs, should I include those months and indicate that I was unemployed? No, you don't need to indicate that you were unemployed. Just list out whatever jobs you had. If you had more jobs than slots are there, what you can do is you can provide us with your resume, and that's obviously going to have all of your jobs there, or a letter of explanation explaining all the jobs you've had over the last 10 years, and you can upload that under client information, additional documents. I uploaded my own statement of purpose on BorderPass, but later the website helped me make another one for submission. The lawyer reviewed. Uh, did they submit both? And how does it affect my application? So, no, what probably happened is we help you build your statement of purpose, but if you include one, we will use yours. We are working on it now, so you get to pick which one you use. But if you include your statement of purpose, we're going to go with yours rather than the one we create for you as of right now. But in the future, if you are applying, you have your own statement of purpose, you can upload that and then you can, create the one that we make for you, and then tell us which one you want to use. But if in the past, if you've submitted your own, we'll use yours. Financial requirements for temporary residents who are extending their study permit. My permit expires in December, but I'm graduating in April. So generally, what we recommend is showing about $1,100 for each month you have left in Canada or in your studies. That's kind of how much it works out to for your living expenses, and then obviously showing that your tuition is paid for your final couple semesters. So that's generally what we recommend. So right now it's October, so October, November, December, January, February, March, April. That's about 7 months. We'd recommend showing about $8,000 in addition to your tuition being paid for your study permit extension. If somebody has paid a $6,000 deposit for their $12,000 tuition, do they still need to show 12,000? You still need to show 12,000, but you've already showed 6,000 that you've paid. So you can take that 6,000 off if that makes sense. So like I was saying before, if you have, let's say your total financial requirement's $40,000, but you have a tuition receipt for 6,000, you can apply that and then include your other expenses for, the rest of your financial requirement. I still had some documents which I couldn't upload. Can it be submitted when going for my biometric or medicals? Okay, this brings us to something very important. When you submit for lawyer review, like there's a button there that says submit my application for lawyer review. You're essentially saying that everything that I could possibly include in my application is uploaded, and now I want a lawyer to look at it. And once a lawyer looks at it, they can submit it to IRCC. That is essentially what you are saying when you're submitting for lawyer review. So if you still have documents or something like that that you want to submit to IRCC, don't submit your application for lawyer review. Because if I come across it, I look at it and I say, okay, well, everything, that is needed is here. I can submit this to IRCC now because I don't know what else you could have. But if you meet, all the minimum requirements, I'm going to submit it to IRCC. For this person, you can submit them. We can send them by web form to IRCC, say, hey, these are to be included with the application. However, we don't know if IRCC is ever going to see them because the confirmation we get is that the web form has been sent, but we never receive confirmation from IRCC that it's been read or anything like that. So there's a risk now that IRCC will not see the documents that are sent by web form. So very important. If you still have documents to upload when it comes to your study permit application or whatever application it is, don't submit for lawyer review because it adds risk by having to send your documents afterwards. Does my brother have to show the source of funds, especially when he is gifting me the money? In the past, no. However, in today's climate with immigration, I would include it just because immigration officers are refusing more and more applications. And like I said before, one of the big reasons in 2025 has been due to source of funds. So if they're not able to ascertain how you made that money that you did, they could just refuse your application. So if your brother's your financial supporter, I would suggest showing how he made that money that he is gifting you. Okay, I know we only have 8 minutes left, so I want to get through some questions here. So I'm gonna look for some really good ones, guys. Can one withdraw all the GIC funds post study permit approval? Yes. It depends on the bank. So obviously, reach out to the bank to get some more details, whichever bank you're getting your GIC from. But yeah, either all of the money is going to be given to you at once, or there's going to be like a schedule of how much each month you're going to be getting. Birth certificates in English, right? Yes, very important. If you have documents, not just birth certificates, but any documents that are not in either English or French, they need to be um, translated and accompanied with an official translation to English. That's very important. So financial documents, birth certificates, marriage certificates, anything like that. If it's not in English or French, it needs to be translated because IRCC officers know one of two languages, English or French. So that's very important. If they can't read your document, basically they don't know what it is, and that could be a reason for refusal. If I've studied in two different college programs when applying for my PGWP, can I put them together to get a longer PGWP, even though these two programs are not related at all, and there is a 6 month gap in between? Um, Send us an email. I'm going to need some more details to answer that question. Um, it's going to depend. Usually you can, like add two 1 year programs together to get a 3 year PGWP. But the fact that you said there was a 6 month gap in between, we're going to need some more details from you. Do you require that the student write a general letter of explanation to convince IRCC that you will be going back to your country? No. So that's your statement of purpose. So we're going to address that in your statement of purpose. So when you're going through our assessments, we're going to ask you a bunch of different questions about, the program you're doing and, kind of your future plans. Once you answer those questions, we're going to draft your statement of purpose for you. In there, you're going to talk about the course you're doing, why you're taking it in Canada, the opportunities you're going to gain back home, your ties to your home country, all of that. So that's where we're going to draft that for you. So no, you're not required to draft a letter of explanation because we're going to draft your statement of purpose for you. I've submitted my application to BorderPass this afternoon. How long does it take to be reviewed and sent to IRCC? Oh, that's funny. The person that asked this question actually just submitted your application not too long ago. So generally, applications will be submitted between 3 to 4 business days. The person that asked this question, you were submitted to IRCC like just over an hour ago. That's really funny that you asked that because I remember your name. Are we required to take a medical exam for the study permit? If yes, can a worker's medical exam be used? So this is going to depend. Whether you're required to take a medical exam might be, required based on the country you're applying from or how old you are. So once you go through all of the questionnaires and everything in your Border Pass account, we're actually going to tell you whether or not it's required. If it is required, you need to do it before. If not, you don't have to, but IRCC can request a medical exam be done at any time. So generally, if you don't want to do it after, it could save you some time in your application process just to do an upfront medical exam first and submit that. Workers' medical exam, I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to there, but it has to be like an upfront medical exam. So it could be, I think it's different because I'm not too sure what you're referring to. Okay, I'm going to take one more question before we wrap up here. So I'm going to look for a really good one. Okay, this one has to do with finances. So generally, this person's asking whether for the proof of funds, they have to be in, your bank account or your financial supporters. So generally, it doesn't really matter if they're in one of your bank accounts, that's fine. However, if the money's already in your bank account, it's generally a little bit better. If, you say they're your financial support and everything, and they transfer that money into your bank account, and you provide your bank account statements and then you can show that, as a supplementary uh, account, you can show that, they have this much money in their bank account, this is how they made their money, everything like that. That's a pretty strong way to show that you have the required amount of funds for your study permit. However, if you can't do that, you can just provide your bank account with whatever money's in there, your supporter's bank account, and then just have all that there. Okay, so I know there was a bunch of questions that I wasn't able to get to. I apologize that we only have so much time in these webinars, and I do have to get back to everything else I do here at Border Pass. So if I wasn't able to get to one of your questions, please send us an email, hello@borderpass.ai, and somebody should be able to help you. Otherwise, if you want to sit down and talk to myself or one of my colleagues in a consultation, please feel free to book a consultation with us. I want to thank all of you guys for attending this webinar. The reason we put this webinar on, every couple of weeks is because there's nothing we hate more than seeing a refusal. I know I hate seeing refusals. I'm sure you do too. So we're just trying to pass down, some knowledge of what we see when we are doing these applications, so we can help you, create a stronger application the first time and limit how much back and forth there is before it's submitted to IRCC. So thank you all for attending. Hopefully you take, my advice. If you don't, I can't really do anything about that. So hopefully you do. But yeah, thanks for attending. Have a great day, everyone.